The tide was out. Jesse and his twin sister Erin were searching the high tide line for anything interesting. Erin picked up a shell covered in sand and she walked down to the sea to wash it and sent hundreds of soldier crabs scuttling out of her way and burrowing into the sand. She called to her brother, "Hey, I love how they run and burrow together. I guess that's why they call them soldier crabs." "We'd better run too," said Jesse. "Grandma will be closing the post office for lunch." "Oh, no wonder I'm hungry." Erin dropped the shell. "I'll race you back to Main Beach," and she took off. "Hey, that's not fair," yelled Jesse. "You had a head start." But he soon caught up to her. The twins sprinted down the sand and turned right at the Lifesavers Club. They slowed down at the dunes because the fine white sand was deep and they sank down into it. Before reaching the hot bitumen road, they threw down their thongs and slipped their toes between the rubber straps. They crossed the road to the row of shops. They saw their grandma through the post office window. She was turning the closed sign to the street. The sign was for tourists because everyone who lived in Sunshine Cove knew the post office closed for lunch between 12 and 1. "There you are," said Grandma, opening the door for the twins. "Hungry?" "Yes," said Erin. The Sunshine Cove post office was at the front of their grandma's weatherboard house. At the back of the post office, a door opened onto a hallway that led to the back part of the house where the twins' grandma lived and where Jesse and Erin came to stay in the school holidays. The kitchen was a closed veranda with rows of louvered windows angled to catch the breeze. Grandma opened the fridge while Jesse grabbed plates and cutlery and glasses. Erin fetched the salt and pepper from the pantry. Grandma put tomatoes, lettuce, cucumber, grated carrot, and a plastic container of sliced beetroot down on the wooden table, and then went back for butter and mayonnaise and bread rolls and a jug of chilled water. "Ugh, rabbit food rolls for lunch," said Jesse as he pulled out a chair and sat down. "That's what Dad calls salad rolls," said Erin. "I'll have to have a word with that father of yours," said Grandma, sitting down too. "I gave him the same wholesome food when he was growing up, and it's the secret to his success." "You can eat rubbish and still be smart," said Jesse. "Plenty of kids at school do that." "Yeah, one of my friends doesn't eat breakfast but always gets her spelling words right," said Erin. "Then she isn't as smart as you think she is," said Grandma. "If you want to get the best out of your body, you have to put healthy food in so you can concentrate in class and play a better game of footy." "Did you teach that to our mum too?" asked Erin. "Because she gave me carrot sticks in my lunchbox." Grandma smiled and drummed her fingers on the table. "You know, I was just reading about fruit and vegetables the other day," she thought hard. "Now, where did I see it?" "In the newspaper?" asked Jessie. "No." "In the Australian Woman's Weekly?" suggested Erin. "No." Grandma's face cleared as she thumped the kitchen table. "I was reading it in the Bible, in the book of Daniel." Erin sat up astonished. "There are carrot sticks in the Bible?" "Well, I don't know about carrot sticks exactly," said Grandma, getting up and fetching her Bible from the kitchen bench, "but definitely vegetables."
God had warned his people that unless they turned back to him, he would allow the Babylonians to defeat them and take them away as slaves. Among those living in Jerusalem was a young man called Daniel. The people ignored God's warnings, and King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord allowed the Babylonians to take the city. The victorious army took sacred objects from the temple of God to take them back to Babylon. The Babylonians then took away all the top leaders and the most able people, and among those taken to Babylon was Daniel. King Nebuchadnezzar ordered his chief of staff to select from the prisoners the very best of the young men from royal and noble families. They had to be strong, healthy, good-looking, and clever. Among those chosen were Daniel and 3 of his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These 4 young Jewish men were to be trained for 3 years in the language and literature of Babylon. They would also be given food and wine from the king's own kitchens. Daniel knew the meat being offered was not prepared as God had set out in the laws of Moses. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these foods unacceptable to them. The chief of staff refused. "The king has ordered that you eat this food and wine. If you become pale and thin, the king will have me killed." Daniel did not give in. "Test us for 10 days on a diet of vegetables and water, then compare us to the others eating the king's food." So for 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends were fed vegetables and water, while the others ate the king's food and drank wine. At the end of the 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than the rest, so they were allowed to continue on with their diet.
What was so wrong with the king's food? Asked Jesse. I mean, if it was good enough for a king, how come it wasn't good enough for Daniel and his friends? God had given his people special rules about what to eat and how it should be prepared, said Grandma. The Babylonians didn't follow those rules, and they offered their food to idols. Daniel wouldn't want anyone to think he believed in any of them. You think because Daniel was a prisoner, he would have just done what he was told, said Jesse. Keep quiet and eat the food like the other prisoners and not cause any trouble. You know, go with the flow. Like the soldier crabs, said Erin. They all run together and burrow together. There's safety in numbers. Grandma nodded. You're right. Daniel's decision did make him stick out. But Daniel trusted in God, and God rewarded his trust. Daniel was just a young teenager when this happened, and his adventures were just beginning. But he makes it clear from the start that he is not going to compromise his beliefs, not even for a king. Makes you wonder what you would do in Daniel's place, said Jesse. Oh, that's easy, said Erin. Pass the carrots, please.
Thanks for watching. Go to kuikidsministry.com.au and you can read the story for yourself and download the colouring sheet for free. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.